everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is a collective review of the various shoes that I have owned in Lolita Fashion, or just regular fashion even, since I do wear some of these shoes in my day-to-day life. And for reference, my shoe size in US women's is about an 8.5 to 9, except for Torrid. So Torrid shoes, they do have a wider width to them than I'm used to, and I actually wear a size 8 in Torrid, but regularly 8.5 to 9. And then for Chinese shoe sizing, I'm about a 40 to 41, usually 41, unless for any miraculous reason the shoes are a lot wider, then it'll be a 40. And for Japanese shoe sizing, I'm about a 25.5 centimeter or double L, LL size. European size, I'm not entirely sure, but otherwise, normally 40 to 41 Chinese shoe sizing, or 25.5 or double L in Japanese shoe sizing. I'm referencing those two the most just because for Lolita Fashion, most people will either buy their shoes from Japanese brands like AP or Baby the Starshine Bright or Metamorphose, etc., or from Taobao shops, which will have Chinese sizing, and that's the 40 to 41 that I normally wear. Anyways, I'm rambling a lot about my shoe size here. So the first brand that I'm going to cover, and I know this brand has been discussed quite a bit in the community, and I just wanted to put my own experience regarding the brand. Again, if you have not watched any of my other videos, my experience is only for my own. I do not speak for anyone else in the community, and certainly does not mean that this is the general consensus. This is just my own personal experience. So please don't take this too seriously, and if you have a different experience than mine, please don't feel pressured to change your mind suddenly because I'm saying something else that may contradict your own experience. So the first brand I'm going to discuss is Cotton Candy Feet. If you have never heard of Cotton Candy Feet, they are a Brazilian brand, I believe, and they've been around for a few years now. They were one of the first few pairs of shoes that I started off with, and at the time I was kind of just starting to get back into Lolita Fashion, so I was trying to build up my shoe collection, and Cotton Candy Feet seemed to be the most accessible since I wasn't too familiar with using Taobao quite yet, and a lot of the shoes that were being sold in the second-hand market were too small for my feet. So I figured purchasing from a brand that offered a wide range of sizes would be the best choice. Unfortunately, the first time I ordered from them, I ordered the wrong shoe size. So they have Brazilian shoe sizing on their website, and I tried to follow their shoe size chart or whatever it was, the conversion chart that they had on their website at the time, and unfortunately I ordered a size too small. So returning to them would have just cost too much and taken too long, and I just sold those first two pairs of shoes on Lace Market to someone who hopefully they fit. I never heard from them for years, so I'm going to guess those shoes fit their feet fine. And then a few years later, I decided to try and order from them again, this time with the correct shoe sizing. Actually, I'm not sure if it was a few years later or a few months later. It's been quite a long time since I've ordered from Cotton Candy Feet, so I can't really quote how long exactly it's been. It might have been just a few months after I sold the original pair, but I then purchased the correct size for my feet, and I'll show you the pair that I have. Just bear with me. So I have two pairs from Cotton Candy Feet. I have this dark brown one that sometimes looks black in photos, and then I have this pale gold one, and it has this cute little chain at the front here. And these are both in a size 39 is what it says at the bottom of the foot, and they are a little dirty. I have wiped and sanitized these shoes, by the way, but these are both size 39, and I'm just gonna check my email here. So these are size 39 on the shoe itself, and according to my order history, they are sized 41 European sizing. Anyways, in terms of the size itself, I am not a fan. I hate trying to convert my shoe size into 2 different measurements. So from my American shoe size to a Brazilian/European shoe size. And personally, I have ordered shoes from ASOS before from the UK, and I've never had issues with the shoe sizing being off. And unfortunately with cotton candy feet, these were actually slightly too big, but the other pair I had, which I believe were 38 on the shoe, the 38s were too small and these are 39 and they're just a little bit too loose. The other issue I have with these shoes is that there's not much support in the sole. So if you have feet that need a little bit better support, or if you're walking around a lot, they're not the most supportive for your shoe. They're not the most supportive for your feet. And I find that the material itself is quite flimsy, and that's the same for this brown pair. So I find the leather is a lot softer, or the pleather, I believe it's actually fake leather, but I find it's a lot softer, and that may be to some people's preferences, but I'm not a huge fan of the flimsy material. And the reason being, that I'm not a huge fan of the material is I'll actually share a photo of one of my coordinates here, and that's when I was wearing the brown pair. I felt like the shoes were causing my wide feet, since I am plus size with wide width feet, it was causing my feet to look like it was spilling out of the shoe. And I have the same issue with the gold pair as well. And because there's a lack of structure, I'm not a huge fan of unstructured things. I like to have structure in my garments, in my shoes, and I'm very much someone who needs structure in my life as well. So the shoes themselves, they're not the greatest in my opinion, and they actually cost a lot. If you're not aware, I live in Canada, and the brown pair of shoes that I was showing and the gold pair of shoes together plus shipping cost $162.96 US dollars. So in Canadian money, that's probably 200 and some dollars Canadian. I am rolling my eyes at the past me who spent that much on shoes that were kind of okay, but probably could have purchased something a little bit better for my needs. And 200 and some dollars on 2 pairs of shoes that are kind of flimsy and don't really do much for my feet is not the best life choice I made. So I am shaking my head at past me. If you are like me and you do prefer some structure to your shoe and a little bit more support on the sole, these are probably not the kind of shoes you want to purchase. Again, though, I have not bought anything from Cotton Candy Feet since that time. I only have those 2 pairs of shoes, so I can't comment on their quality now, and I also can't comment on the comfort of their shoes at this time. So it could have changed quite a bit, or if you actually have purchased recently from them and you have similar experiences, please let me know. Or if you actually see that there is a change in the quality, please also comment below, let everyone else know as well. So the next shoe company, I guess, that I'm going to be talking about is Sosic shoes, and I first found out about them from one of Cupcake Kami-sama's videos, and I did haul, I think, a mint and a pink pair in one of my old Taobao haul videos. I'll link it here if you've never watched it, but I still own those pair of shoes, the pink and the mint pair, and I've actually accumulated more colors from Sosic. The only thing with Sosic shoes is they do not fit well on wide width feet. If you're planning to purchase any of the boots or like the Oxford shoes where the top of the foot is covered, I'll show you what I mean. It's a little bit difficult for me to explain, but this is the type of shoes that I purchased from Sosic. So this is another brown shoe, and it's got the top part of the foot uncovered other than the strap right here. If you purchase any of their shoes where this part of the shoe is covered, so any of the lace-up shoes, I find that my feet are too wide for that type of shoe, and there's not a lot of stretch in the shoe. So this one is more structured. It's a lot firmer than the Cotton Candy Feet shoes that I showed earlier. So if you do have a lot wider width feet, Sosic shoes may not suit your needs and may not be the most comfortable, but for me they are fine and they fit quite well. The only thing is I do have to put this strap on the second last buttonhole. It can be a little bit tight with the strap, but for me, just putting it on the second last buttonhole has worked just fine, and they are quite comfortable. And the sole, I find, has a lot more support. It's actually pretty cushioned, not as much as, say, a memory foam sneaker or anything like that, but for a pair of heels, there is some cushioning. And the last few times I ordered from Sosic, they always give out these gel inserts that you can put on the heel so that it doesn't cut into your ankle, and that you can also put on the sole in case. But I've never had to use them, and these shoes are pretty comfortable. I still wouldn't recommend walking or trying to run in these all day, but for short excursions, I would say they're fine, and they don't normally kill my feet or anything like that. And again, it has a lot more structure. You compare this to the cotton candy feet one. The ankle strap on the Sosic shoes just stay up on their own, whereas the cotton candy feet one tend to bend down, and they are kind of flimsy in my opinion. Like this one, I can hang on my hand here and bend around a little bit, and I'm not afraid of it snapping or getting cut, whereas this is a lot more malleable. But this is just my own personal preference. And in terms of the brown, I do prefer Sosic's brown compared to the cotton candy feet brown. However, I'm still forever on a search for a milk chocolate brown pair of shoes. These are both dark brown, and I would love to have a milk chocolate brown to go with some of my other JSKs, but the search continues, and unfortunately I don't have a milk chocolate brown shoe to share in this review. Continuing with the brown shoe theme, this is the only pair of brand shoes that I own. This is from Alice and the Pirates, and I believe it's called the Clara Booty. Forget exactly the name. This shoe was actually on my wish list when I first started learning about Lolita Fashion, and then when I started focusing more on building my wardrobe and really getting into the fashion a lot more, I happened to see this listed in the secondhand market on Lace Market, and they happen to be LL size, which for brand shoes I have found is impossible to find brand new in the brand shop or even on Lace Market. I have a hard time finding good condition LL size shoes, and these were pretty much brand new when I got them, and they surprisingly, because it is a booty or a boot at this case, I'm not entirely sure if AATP called it a booty or a boot, but in terms of just having this tall part on the boot itself, and being plus size myself, I do have wider calves than the normal Japanese person, and surprisingly these boots fit my calves. I'm not entirely sure what my calf measurement is. I can measure it at the end and I'll include it somewhere here, my calf, but surprisingly this boot fits my calves. It does have this lace up detail here, so you can lace up the boot, and this is also where you can loosen up the boot so that it fits your calves. And then it has a zipper on the side, so you're not trying to lace up your boot every single time. The other thing I like about these boots is there is a bit of a platform on the sole, and the heel height isn't too bad. I did wear these boots in the middle of Canadian winter. I would not recommend wearing them if there recently was a freeze thaw cycle, so puddles, all the snow that melted and the puddles that are on the ground then turn into ice. These shoes will not help you in any way, shape, or form to walk on ice. I was terrified to wear them from the car to the venue that I was going to, because we happened to have a freeze thaw cycle that day, and these boots are super slippery on ice. But on a normal day, if you do not have Canadian winters, maybe you live in LA and it's like, I don't know, LA weather plus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. I don't know Fahrenheit temperatures, but maybe you live in an area where it doesn't snow but it does get a little bit chilly, then these shoes will probably be fine. And I've had these shoes for 4 years or so, and they are still holding up quite well. Keep in mind, I do store my shoes in a separate closet, and I do like to wipe them down with some water and a paper towel just to keep them a little clean. Nothing harsh, just so that, you know, when they get dusty, just wipe off the dust, and then there's no chemicals that might cause the leather or pleather to peel at all. And I would say it's still in pretty good condition, given that I did wear it in winter, and I've had it for a few years. Now the next pair of shoes that I'll be talking about is not specific to Lolita, but I did see a lot of other Lolitas wearing shoes from this brand, and it led me to be curious, and me being curious ends up with me buying things that I probably shouldn't buy, and then I end up with more shoes than I can count. So these shoes are from Bait Footwear, B-A-I-T. I have no idea what B-A-I-T actually stands for, but but another innocent tale. I just happened to read it on the sole of the shoe. So Bait Footwear is, I believe, an American brand. Not entirely sure, but it is a Western brand. Not specific to Lolita, but again, I do see some Lolitas wearing footwear from the brand. And I have these two shoes that I've personally worn regularly. So this one is a little heel. It's just a small kitten heel and has no strap or anything like that. And this one is a little bit chunkier of a heel, but not a platform or a wedge, and has a lace-up detail on here, and it's got these perforated edges, perforated sides, so your socks, etc. will peek outside of these cutouts. The only thing with Bait Footwear is, again, just like Sosic and other Western brands that don't specifically say they're for wide width, some of their shoes are not going to fit if you do have wide width feet. One issue I had with this shoe specifically is that if you're wearing socks or anything like that, so socks, OTKs, or tights, your feet will slip in and out of these unless you happen to get a size smaller and then just force your feet in. These shoes are in, I believe, I don't have the size on the shoe anymore, but I believe they're in a size 9 US, and they do fit my feet decently, but I did have a lot of issues of my foot slipping out. And one thing with this is, because it is a shallower side, I find that sometimes my feet do spill out or don't look that great in them. I think if there was a strap, or I might just put a ribbon on here to help secure the shoe to my foot. I think if there was a strap though, it would look a little bit better. I know they sell or sold, I'm not entirely sure. Haven't purchased from this brand in a long time, but I know they have a similar style shoe, but not a wedge. I believe it's an actual heel that has a strap on it. Just they didn't have it in my size at the time, and I don't think I would plan to purchase it anytime soon either if I were to see it. But I know there's a strapped version as well. I just never purchased it because, I don't know, past me was making interesting choices. And then this shoe from Bait Footwear as well. So this one has the cutout on it, and similar to the Alice in the Pirates boot with the lace-up ribbon here, you could loosen it up a bit if you find that it's a little too narrow for your feet. The only thing is there's no support in this shoe, so I find that I can't wear this for quite as long without my feet hurting, and the sole is a little bit narrower since they don't specifically cater to wide width feet. So just be mindful if you do have wider feet and comfort and mobility is a concern. I would not recommend Bait Footwear shoes unless, of course, you've had your own experiences and it works for you. But if you're newer to purchasing shoes from Bait Footwear, I would probably not recommend this shoe specifically. I'll write the name of the shoe model here. It's a very pretty shoe, but unfortunately for me, was not very comfortable. The next shoe that I have is this one from Angelic Imprint. It's the Bat Wings Cross. I think it may be a replica shoe. I want to say it probably is, but I don't keep up with shoes that are released by brand very often, if at all. So I'm not entirely sure, but I do know Angelic Imprint has the tendency to release replicas. I think the same with Sosic, and I guess even Cotton Candy Feet. Some of their shoes do look similar or very close to Baby and AP shoes. I can't say specifically. I don't own any other shoes from AP or Baby other than the Clara Booty that I have, or the Clara Boot. So this shoe is a platform shoe here with this ankle thing, the T-strap I think is what it's called. And I have no idea why past me purchased this in a size 42. I think because I was terrified that the 41 might be too narrow, but the 42 is actually quite big on me. And one thing is, even though I got this in a 42, the top of my foot here is very uncomfortable since I do have a little bit more fat at the top of my foot. So this T-strap part actually tends to dig into my foot. Not the entire strap, but closer to the toe portion. And then the actual footbed itself, or the sole, I wouldn't say it's as narrow as bait footwear, but if you have wider feet, or if you're used to Torrid's wide width shoes, these shoes will probably feel still a little bit narrow. In terms of comfort, other than it being too big so my foot does slide around, but in terms of comfort for the platform itself, it is very comfortable. And I realized that I've only been talking about the price of cotton candy feet, but for these shoes, I believe they were $40 US or something along those lines. Not as expensive as cotton candy feet. And then I'll actually go back to the bait footwear. These shoes, I find bait footwear can be quite expensive unless you happen to purchase it secondhand or when they have a sale. I think I purchased these while they were on a sale, but in terms of price, because it is in US dollars and I'm in Canada, exchange rate is never in my favor, and I believe these shoes still cost quite a bit since I remember having to pay customs taxes on them, and I never have any luck whenever I get customs tax on my shipments. So for these shoes, I believe I had to pay like 80 some Canadian dollars, I believe. I know it's almost $100, and even my mail person came up to me and she said, "Are you sure you want to accept this package? There is a customs charge of, I think, $80. She's like, do you want to accept? Are you going to pay this?" And I just said, well, they're already here, so I'll pay it. And I could see she even felt bad for me that I was going to have to pay that much in customs. And then for the Sosic shoes here, so I own several colors and several pairs. I'm just going to double check. So the Sosic shoes in US dollars is about $16 US per pair. However, there are the service fees if you're using a shopping service for Taobao. Excuse me. So there are some service fees attached, and then you'll hiccups. So there are some service fees attached, and then you also have to pay shipping to the shopping service, and also after shipping to you. So in terms of the price of the Sosic shoes, the base price on Taobao is about $16 US, but then when you add on the fees and the shipping costs, etc., I would say it's closer to $25 US maybe, but that comes up to about 30 to 35 Canadian, I would say, depending on how heavy your package is and if you're purchasing from a shopping service pre-COVID or during COVID, because I found that with the shopping service I use, so I use Spree now, the shipping prices I was paying before COVID happened was about 30 to 40 Canadian dollars for EMS shipping. But now, depending on how heavy the package is, it could actually be 50 to even $200 just for EMS shipping. And I know it's also because there are fewer flights coming into Canada and fewer flights leaving Canada as well, or leaving China even. So in terms of the shipping costs, I do understand there is some inflation in that, but if you're purchasing these shoes, or if you plan to, I would say if you happen to live in a country that China ships to regularly still, I think the shipping cost to the US is still cheaper, but shipping to Canada, Japan Post has cut off shipping to us by EMS or airmail, and I think the only option right now is surface mail. And then EMS shipping from China currently, with what I've faced, is about $50 now. So I would say these shoes, if you're only buying one or two pairs and that's it, they might cost anywhere from 30 to 50 Canadian dollars, depending on when you purchase them. But that's including the shopping service fees, and then the shipping fees from the seller to the shopping service, and then the shopping service to you. So I'd say maybe $30 to $50 range. Going back to the Clara Booty, I believe I purchased these second hand. at about $100 I want to say. And the regular price for the Claire booty, I'm just checking my laptop here. I keep calling them booties, but it's a boot. So these are the Clara short boots, and according to Lollibrary, the original price in 2015 was 18,144 yen. That would be about, I want to say 200 Canadian at this time. In 2015, it was probably closer to $180 Canadian, but right now, since the Canadian dollar is not doing that great, I would say about 220 Canadian for the 18,144 yen. In terms of when I bought it, it was about $100 US, so about 120 Canadian at the time. These are all just estimates. Please don't think that I'm accurately quoting these prices, but let me just double check my lace market history actually. So I'm going to correct myself. I just found the original listing that I purchased from on Lace Market, and they were $93 about. I think it was $71 US dollars for the boot, and then $20 US dollars for shipping, I believe. So about 90 some US dollars, and that came out to about 100 and some Canadian dollars. A lot cheaper than buying them original, which was the 18,100 and some yen, which would come out to about 200 Canadian. So I saved about $100 from buying these on Lace Market, and honestly, so far I would say this was probably the best purchase I made for shoes. The second last pair of shoes that I'm going to talk about is this pair of shoes. This is kind of a pale gold. I'm not sure if it's coming out more yellow on the camera, but these shoes I recently purchased from, I think the translation is Deep Sea Covenant. I'm not entirely sure because I can't really read Chinese, but Google Translate says Deep Sea Covenant, and I ordered these in a size 41. I originally had them up for sale on Lace Market, but then I decided to give them a second chance, and I'm actually glad I did. These shoes are softer on the sides, but I don't have the same problem with my feet spilling out like they do in the cotton candy feet shoes. And there's a little bit more support on the sole of the shoe, and it is a lower heel, so it's actually pretty comfortable. It does come with this removable ankle strap, but I'm not a huge fan of ankle straps, and I think there's already these cross straps on the front of the shoe, and that's more than enough to secure your feet. If you do like wearing ankle straps though, this is an option. And then this bow part actually is removable. It's clipped on. I'm not going to take off the clip because I kind of pinched myself last time I tried, but these shoes are very versatile, and surprisingly I thought they were a bit too small for my feet, but I just readjusted the straps here and put them on the, believe it's the second last hole again. After I adjusted the straps, I found that they actually fit decently, and I'll attach a photo of a coordinate that I'm wearing with these shoes, and surprisingly they're very comfortable. I would say they're also worth the purchase. I got these from Taobao though, so there is the Taobao cost and then the shopping service fee, shipping from the shopping service to you, shipping from the store to the shopping service. And so be prepared that the original price these shoes are at is about $17 USD, but then when you add on the shopping service fees and the double shipping fees, I'd say this is probably closer to 25 to 30 US dollars. And then converting that to Canadian, I'd say it's about 40 to 50 some Canadian dollars, depending again on the cost of shipping from the shopping service to you. So 40 to 50 would be the more conservative cost of shipping. But if we're talking about the 50 to 150, $200 EMS shipping from China to Canada, these shoes could very well even reach 60 Canadian dollars. At the time that I purchased them, they unfortunately were shipped with a lot of stationery that I was purchasing from a few months before, and they were just sitting at the shopping service office since I don't want to try and ship the stationery just on their own. But because I actually did that, the cost of shipping ended up being quite a bit because of the weight, and I would say these shoes unfortunately were more like 50 to 60 Canadian dollars by the time I got them. Would I say they're worth $50 to $60? No. However, so my camera cut out there, but I was just talking about whether I feel that these shoes are worth the 50 to 60 Canadian dollars with the increased shipping cost. But when I compare them to how much the cotton candy feet shoes that I had were, the cotton candy feet shoes were about 70, I believe 70 US dollars. That's about 100 Canadian dollars per pair. Comparing that to these shoes, which for me have a lot more structure and support, I would say I guess $50 to $60 is a bargain compared to that cost. But it does take a little bit more time to get the shoes from the seller to the shopping service and then the shopping service to you. And keep in mind, Chinese New Year's is coming up, and shopping services and a lot of Taobao sellers tend to close during that time for Chinese New Year holidays, so there may be some delays if you do plan to purchase some shoes from Taobao. However, with the extremely high EMS shipping cost that I paid, these shoes did take about, I think, a week and a half to get to me from China to Canada. So not too bad given that we are in pandemic times and there's a lot of mailing delays. Getting this in a week and a half is not too bad, but paying $120 for shipping, I question my choices sometimes. But this is one of those instances where I don't plan to keep increasing my shoe collection unless I happen to find a milk chocolate pair of shoes. The last pair of shoes that I have right now is these lace-up Oxfords, and I actually purchased these from Modcloth. The brand is Rocket Dog, and this is in a size 9, I believe, size 9 US. This is not catered specifically to wide width feet. However, I found that these are actually quite comfortable on my feet, and I don't have any issues with this top lace-up part being too tight. It's actually quite forgiving, and I can actually just slip my feet in and out without having to relace this part. One of the issues I had, because I did try to purchase a similar shoe like this from Sosic. I didn't try to purchase, I actually did purchase. So I purchased a shoe similar to this from Sosic, and this top part of the shoe, the one from Sosic, is too tight, and there was no room or forgiveness. There wasn't much give in the shoe, so it wasn't going to stretch as much as this shoe is, and unfortunately it's too small on my feet and it was too tight. But this one fits very well, and I think these cost, I want to say $50. Not quite sure since I'm going off memory, but I'll put it here if I do remember. And they're very comfortable. I can wear them for quite some time, and also the sole itself, it's not quite as padded as, say, the Sosic shoes that I was talking about. It's surprisingly not nearly as padded as that, but it has a lot more padding than cotton candy feet. So these are a lot more comfortable for me to wear prolonged periods of time. I still wouldn't recommend wearing these if you're planning to run or if you're going to be walking all day. They might start to hurt your feet after some time. But I would say these shoes I can last about 3 or 4 hours walking here and there and just taking breaks. And honestly, it's not a brand that's catered specifically to Lolita, but it's one of those shoes that I've always wanted in my wardrobe, and I'm glad that I found this pair on Modcloth because they're surprisingly very comfortable, and I didn't need to worry about whether they would fit my feet. If you do have very wide width feet, I wouldn't recommend these shoes still though, as it may be too narrow at that point. But if you have wide width feet and you fit into torrid size 8 just fine, I think these shoes would fit just as well. But again, it really depends on your foot and your comfort level, so take my advice with a grain of salt. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, requests, suggestions, questions, or if you have any experiences with any of the shoe brands I mentioned, please leave a comment down below. If you can hear that jingling, that's my dog. It's currently 12:30 a.m. in Canada as I'm filming this, and I think she's just waiting for me to go to bed. She usually likes to sleep right next to me on the bed, so I think she's just restless and is insisting that it's time for bed. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!